quickly as possible, and let's get moving. All right, trigger warning on this photo. Take a look at that. I don't know why. Jeff thought we needed a trigger warning, so we do. Yeah, enough for that one. I thought it was more important for this one than the one he thought. So look, I want to actually just say a few things about me that segue into today's class. And it just seems like, for me, it feels important that you understand where I'm coming from. You know, in a class on race and ethnic relations, both in the U.S. and internationally, there is a sense that, you know, it matters to have some kind of understanding, albeit maybe really small, about what it is I'm doing and what I'm trying to do and that sort of thing. So I just want to just give you a little background, a little more of a background on me and how it is that I got here, because I think it'll be helpful for, especially as we start today's class, the topic that we're going to hit today. So I grew up working class. I went to schools that were by and large working class. People in my family didn't go to college. I wasn't expected to go to college. And, you know, in fact, when I graduated high school, my mother told me about a job as a court stenographer. Not before I graduated. So, you know, that would be a good career for you because you type well and, you know, you sit in the courthouse and type out what happens in a trial, right? So that's kind of the level. It wasn't go to college. It wasn't like be a lawyer in the court or be a judge or who knows what you could possibly, even be a police officer, for crying out loud. It was be a court stenographer, sit in a chair on the side of the court and just type all day long, which would have been awesome. You know what I mean? That would have been a cool life in and of itself. But to give you a sense, that's where I'm coming from. So, you know, those are my parents. That photo was taken probably about a month before my dad died. And so they weren't racist. I never heard anything ever racist or from either of my parents. It wasn't part of our world. I didn't grow up really thinking about. I had a lot of experiences with race that were never talked about. You know, I met lots of people who were black and brown and people from lots of different. My mother used to love to go to restaurants that were like international restaurants. She used to love Syrian food and Lebanese food and Mexican food, and she always wanted to go to restaurants where people didn't speak English, because she felt like that meant it was going to be really authentic food, right? So here's a woman who never traveled in her life, left the United States one time, later in her, 2 times actually, but, you know, so I kind of grew up with that, not to be afraid of other people, but we didn't talk about race, and we certainly didn't talk about being white, and we didn't talk about class, and we didn't talk about lots and lots of things, okay? So I didn't take school seriously. Had my dad stayed alive, had he lived, he would have pushed school on me more so, but it just didn't take it seriously. I mostly, as I mentioned in the first class, you know, I discovered weed really early, and I discovered that I didn't have to get A's. I don't even remember my mother asking me for my report card to see my grades. But the key is that I just didn't think about the world. I didn't think about issues. I went off to college because it was really inexpensive. It was $450 a quarter. So imagine maybe like $650 a semester is what it was. And I could work. I started painting houses when I was a senior in high school, and I could make $500 in a week, you know, pretty easily. So I started taking classes. Within a few weeks, I kind of stopped going to class. I started up the next quarter, same thing. At the end of 2.5 years, I was about halfway through my freshman year in terms of credits, because I would start taking classes and just get bored and stop, because I was working, I was playing music, I was doing a lot of things, but I was not interested in studying. I read voraciously. I was always a reader, but I just didn't understand why anybody would go to school. It was just so immensely boring to me. It was so boring. It was just horrific, right? It was much more interesting to, you know, skip class, go to the library and read books and think about things on my own terms, right? Well, 2.5 years into my college, career, I had transferred to a community college because I was just going to get my 2-year business degree. I was an accounting major when I started college. I wanted to join the FBI. That was just this idea that I had. I didn't even know what the F that meant, but whatever. I was going to be an accounting major. But I transferred to the 2-year college. I thought, well, maybe I'll get a 2-year degree. Halfway through that semester, I stopped in all but one class, and I didn't go to class. And then I had one class I was still going to, and I was on my way to that class, and I went to the library instead. And I did what I always did. I was walking around the library just looking at things, because I always found libraries to be really awesome, And I found this journal about prisons and prison reform and recidivism in prisons, and I thought, you know what? That actually sounds really interesting. And for the first time in my life, I had something that I thought would fascinate me, and I went to the phone, and I dialed the number of the social work department because it was a social work journal, and I called this dude, and I said, hey, can I come talk to you? And I did, and he signed me up for a sociology class and a social work class for the next quarter. I quit playing music, I quit working, I quit everything, and I became a student, just like that. It happened like I snapped my fingers, just like that. I said, I want to be a thinker. I want to understand the world. I'm tired of not understanding the world. I'm tired of looking at a newspaper or talking to people or hearing people get in an argument about something and having no idea really what they're talking about, and just tired of just not getting it. I watched the news. I didn't understand the news. It didn't make sense. I felt like there was something really wrong, right? And I was trying to think, like my mind, I would try to really take my mind places, but there was nothing, I had no framework for understanding anything. And so even when I smoked weed, like I would have these immensely fascinating, cool weed thoughts, that you have. Like, whoa, there could be like a whole universe in one molecule in the fingernail right here on my finger. Like, whoa. When you're stoned, that's a cool idea, right? Those of you who are stoned right now probably are going like, whoa, I never thought of that. And it's true. Like it's like, whoa. So I had those thoughts, but I couldn't go anywhere with it. So I started my journey. I was 20 years old. I took this first sociology class, and it was just like an explosion in my mind of ideas. I didn't worry about grades. I didn't think about grades. Dudes, I didn't even know the difference between a verb and a noun when I started at this point. I was just like, but I didn't worry about that. I was just on a journey to build a framework of understanding for the world. And I wasn't burned out because I never took school seriously. So I had my first 15 years of school where I didn't do anything. And so I had a lot of energy. I still have a lot of energy, okay? So then I discover a few things in college. And I start studying just on a whim. I start reading some stuff about U.S. foreign policy and the war machine that is the United States. And in particular, what we're doing in Latin America, because I just got interested in Latin America. And by the way, I know I'm talking about me. This is probably the last time I'm going to talk about me all semester long. So just bear with me, because I think this is important. I'm now in my master's program. I went to the University of Toledo. They had to accept me. I only applied to one school. They had to accept me because they had to accept everybody, so whatever. And I did my master's there. It was the only place that would allow me to do a master's because my record was so poor. And now I'm reading this stuff about Latin America. And I'm reading about what the United States is doing and has done. And it opened my mind to the world in a way that it had never been open. Like as if everybody and everything around me had betrayed me. When you grow up in the U.S., when you grow up in your country and you wave the flag and you do what you do and you salute and this and you that, and it's like, you just assume that your country's leaders are good people and they're trying to do the right thing and they say the right things. And you can't, like, okay, they do some wrong things. But, you never imagine that some people could be as evil as they really are, or that, your own country could do some evil things that, like, you can't even put it into words. And so I started discovering that stuff. And I just turned hardcore, not even left. I just turned hardcore, just critiquing everything. And then I got here, so I was traveling a lot. I did my research in Latin America. I came to Penn State on a whim because my wife was here, and so we wanted to live in sin. And she wasn't my wife at the time. She was my girlfriend. Yesterday was our anniversary, by the way. And so... You should have clapped when I said, I turned my life around. I went into the library and became a student for the first time. That's when you should have clapped, because a lot of you are in the same boat. Anyway, all right, thanks. Okay, so I came here, my second year here, I started teaching this class. And I started teaching the class because it was it was the only thing they had for me to teach. And they said, look, if you don't teach the 119 class about race, we don't know if we have another class. Now, mind you, I'm really white, okay? So, and I've dealt with race now, right? Because I'm traveling. I had a lot of experience, but I didn't have the kinds of experiences that you need to teach a class like this. And at any moment, things could just go south really fast. And oh my God, I could tell you stories about the past, 28 years in Social 119 where I was afraid for reality itself. So, but anyway, I started teaching this class because I really had to. It kind of strong-armed me into it, right? And I needed some money. I was just teaching one class. And I was trying to make some money so I could eat and pay my rent. And I walked in, and I discovered a world of complexity. First off, I discovered that I was white in a way that I knew I was white, but I took a journey into whiteness, like a really intense journey into whiteness. I took an intense journey into being a man, what that means. Took an intense journey into being straight. And I took a really intense journey into being American and in class in a way that I just had never done before. And my first years of teaching this class, it was mostly me trying to understand the world of race and race relations. And so a lot of what I was doing, I was on what was called my racial identity. I was kind of taking a journey, right? Because when you start talking about any issue that involves, your sort of personal self in relation to the sociological self, you go through this developmental process. And so in the beginning of the race journey, if you're a white person, you sort of go to this one of the first stages you get to is discovery. You start there where you don't really notice. I think back to all the race experiences that I had as, before I was, say like 27 or 28, that I never even understood, never thought at all about the complexities of those experiences. Because I was just Sam Richards, not Sam the man, the white man, the straight white man, Sam the former working class kid, the American, etc., right? So anyway, you get to the next stage where suddenly everything starts to open up and you start seeing this inequality. You don't have to look really hard. Really, you can kind of shut down to it and you can make arguments against it. Maybe it's not this bad. But when you start kind of opening and looking at some stuff, it's like, man, the world. It's just like the United States, like the foreign policy stuff. You don't have to look really hard to see evil. Trust me. And so here in this world, I'm starting this journey and I'm walking along and so then my first job as this white guy who's starting to really see race in some interesting ways. My first job is to convince other white people to get where I am, right? And so I spend many years there, just like really teaching this class for white people. Meaning that, I'm really spending lots of time talking about, almost all the time in my first years of teaching this, talking about inequality, and trying to get white people to just understand the inequality between them and between people who are not white. And between men and between women, and so on and so forth, right? And so then I keep going along, and the more I teach, and the more I discover, and the more I see the complexities of things, I realize it's not that simple. There's actually probably more of the so-called inequality than I ever imagined, but it's also not simple. And then I just start hearing things that people say, and I'm realizing, you know what? It's like while you're over here having these conversations to white people about all the things that white people need to learn, you're letting all these black and brown people off the hook. Because A, you're not challenging them. So like all they're hearing is stuff that many of them have been listening to their whole lives. And then they're not getting challenged to have the opportunity to see some things in more complex ways. Because this stuff is really complex. And so therefore, I'm not doing my job. And then it became increasingly difficult to just do that, just have these conversations with white people. And then what happened is I started being more and more comfortable in my white skin. Like I really got comfortable. And again, like, yeah, I get it. I'm a white man. I'm a straight white man. I'm a stupid, sometimes really dumb and ignorant white man that says really dumb things. My wife can't believe it sometimes. Like, dude, God, you were so white. Like, come on. And yet, I think about this stuff all the time. I am engaging compared to the average person, the average white person who's in this. Man, I am, besides my wife, like in it up to my neck. Like the two of us, right? And so then I started to shift some stuff in the way I operate. And I really started to say, no, hang on a minute. This class, I'm actually comfortable enough that I'm going to really talk about all of the issues that need to be talking about. And then I started to read all the things that I thought I had disagreed with. So, like how you imagine that you're thinking, but, you're saying all the same things that everyone around you is saying. And if you say the same things that everyone around you is saying, you're not thinking. You're just repeating a narrative. And so if you're not having regular arguments with your friends and your family members about anything, you're just repeating a narrative. And you think you're right. Well, I don't argue with my family members or my friends because we're all right. We're correct. We see the world correctly. No, man, you see the world the way you all see the world. It's not the correct way. It's not the best way. It's not the smartest way. It's the narrative that you have. If you're not arguing about things, you're not growing. It's like imagine these steps or, like the journey of intellectual growth. You're not going up the steps because you're just back here having the same arguments with everybody else. And so I started to read things and talk to people who I had never read. I didn't really read because I thought they were dumb and they were ignorant and they didn't make sense, and then have conversations with people and arguments with people and go to lectures and listen to stuff. And I started to then have to confront the arguments that they were making. And as I was confronting the arguments that they were making, I was realizing I'm actually pretty dumb. Like I'm not really very smart because I can't even take on that argument. I'm taking on the argument with the same thing that I've been saying for the past 15 years, which is like back here. I'm up against this wall just going like the same narrative, blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean? And I'm thinking, nah, that is unacceptable. So I started to really engage the people that heretofore I thought were dumb and ignorant and racist and sexist and whatever it is, right? I started to actually talk to people who are in charge of our foreign policy, the evil foreign policy, right? I'm gonna see one actually next week, a former student of mine who is in charge of foreign policy under two different administrations. And I'm like, and I talk to people, and I'm really like, whoa, this stuff's really complex. Whoa, you think it's a really simple answer to it? It's black and white? Because that's you back here. Right, black and white. You're just thinking, oh my God, like this is me. I'm unable to see anything of complexity. But the more I talk, the more I engage, I'm realizing everything is complex. And that doesn't mean, it's not, in Charlottesville, the alt-right, they have their perspectives, and then the anti-racists have their perspectives. And so, somewhere in the middle, no. That's not to say that some ideas are really intellectually acceptable. Some ideas really, I set them aside. I've weighed everything, and some things I still set aside and say, I'm not going to go there. But I only do that because I'm really weighing stuff and I'm engaging and I'm thinking through. So, I try in this class to be really fair. I try not to impose a lot of my ideology in here because, like, first off, I don't even know what I think anymore. I'm so confused. Honestly, I don't know what I think, so I couldn't impose it on anybody. I try to challenge everybody and try to really, whatever it is. So if you think like, well, thus far you haven't challenged this perspective or that perspective, come on, man, we have a whole semester. Trust me, everyone's going to be on the hot seat at some point, including myself, right? So with that in mind, wait, who's the bro? It was you had the cool hat on the other day, right? I got to say this because when I got home, my wife was watching the live stream, and I think when you said the thing about the border wall, and you mentioned Trump, and I think you said that asshole in the, yeah, okay. I didn't hear you say that because of my tinnitus, right? It depends on where I'm sitting in the room. I don't always hear what people say, but you referred to Trump as the asshole in the White House. Dude, I would have stopped. If I had heard you, I would have just stopped that. It's like, you can say that, but if you say it in here, you're going to get challenged. You can think it, got it, but no. Because by me allowing you to say that and not saying anything, I'm endorsing it, right? And then I'm endorsing a perspective. And like, I might think that, but that's not my job. My job in here isn't, dude. Donald Trump. He's not an asshole. I don't know that there's a word that could. Is there an adjective? I'm not sure there's a word that really describes Donald Trump, right? I don't think there's one yet made up in the English language. Maybe that could be my job. Jeff, that'll be my job, man. Before the end of my life, I'm going to come up with a word that would describe him. Anyway, so one thing, your job would be, if you feel at different points like I'm leaning too far one way or another way or whatever, you can call it out, but understand this is the last thing, and then I'm going to be done talking. We're going to have an experience. If you disagree with something I say, you need to know that you might disagree, but the other half of the class is agreeing. I mean, you might think I'm an idiot for saying something, but the other half of the class thinks I'm brilliant. Well, no one probably thinks I'm brilliant, but the other half of the class tolerates it. So you get it, right? You may be unhappy. Oh, that class would have been really cool if he had just. It's like, well, the other half is saying, like, that was cool because he. You see what I mean? So, like, remember that. And so your goal is always to get to the other side and figure that out. And the next thing is, here's one other thing that I did, and this will truly be the last thing. And does anyone have any gum, by the way? Like mint gum? You have some mint gum? God. Quite a number of years ago, I started having Oh, you rock. You're so extra, man. So, quite a number of years ago, I started asking, I would do these awesome lectures, right? Hang on. They're awesome to me. I don't care what y'all think, right? I never cared what anybody thought. If I liked it, people would say, how was class? I'm like, I had a great time. I don't know what anybody else thought. They might have been sleeping. Well, they were sleeping. Actually, there were about 12 people out there sleeping. But for me, I had a good time. So I would give what I thought was like a really cool, say a couple of really interesting things, which is big. If I can say 2 in a class, that's pretty exciting. I asked people, 5 minutes after class was, hey, what'd you think about that? What? What'd you talk about? I'm like, oh, come on, man. Seriously? That's where we're at here? And yeah. And so at some point, I realized I'm not using notes. You're not going to take notes. I'm not using PowerPoint slides that you write things down. You don't care. You're going to take your notes. You're going to take your notebooks at the end of the semester, and you're going to throw them out or recycle them, just like I did when I was a student. It means nothing. The best I can do is get you to talk to each other and to demonstrate in different ways these just different concepts and different ideas, and then we just talk, we just engage. And it's much more interesting for me, and it allows me to keep teaching, and I'm sure it's much more interesting for you. If you feel like, hey, I'm getting shortchanged in Social 19 because Sam We went a whole semester and Sam never even defined racism. Dudes, listen, man. Here's what you do. See this thing right here? It's a computer. It's got these search engines like Google, Chrome. Open it up, type racism into it, and read to your heart's content. And you could read for a whole semester nonstop all about racism, but you don't need me to define it for you. Don't read just one source, read lots of different sources, but nonetheless, you don't need me to give you concepts. If you need that, then you've learned how to go to school in the wrong way. Because that is not how to go to school. How to go to school is to sit back and think. And to argue. And argue. You should be arguing with me at the end of every class. You should be leaving here with an argument in your head about why I'm an idiot or why whatever. Because that means you're thinking. I've got you where I want you. Okay? All right, Mom. So let's do this. Is that not, though, an awesome, look at that. Look at that innocent cherub face right there. Dude, I got that was from your mom, sent me that. Yeah, oh my God. Yo, my bro, let me tell you something really fast about my family, like my bro. He went, just to give you an insight of how much we didn't think about or talk about race. My brother went to a high school that was half black. And he took a black girl to his senior prom. He had a black girlfriend, took a black girl to senior prom, brought her over to the house, had no idea. He never said she was black, had no idea she was black. My mom had no idea. She just came in, they took pictures, and he left. And then about an hour later, my mom and I are sitting there, and my mom says, "Oh, Joe's girlfriend is black." And I'm like, "Yeah, all right." That's how much we didn't talk about. It didn't matter. It did matter. It does matter. The fact that we're white matters. The fact that I'm white matters to how I got here. The fact that I'm a man matters to how I got here. The fact that all sorts of things matters and has mattered all throughout my life. And that's the stuff we'll be talking about all semester long. But it didn't matter enough that anyone ever bothered to say anything. And he did not say anything because he did not say it because it didn't matter. Half his friends were black, it didn't matter. And so that's the level at which in my household it was just sort of like, oh, okay. In my job, that's the world, this is to the conservatives out there. That's the world you want to get to, but that's the world you get to after you've created a more egalitarian set of relationships. So when there's more equality, then you can get to that world. It's cool to get to that world, in my humble opinion, where we don't talk about race all the time. All right, man. So we're going to talk about exploring white privilege today. And I think it's going to be a cool class. Well, again, it'll be cool for me, I hope. I never know because, when we do these activities, or when we have what we're calling case studies, I never know what's going to happen. So you bear with me, right? So but it makes it more interesting. All right, so here we go. We're going to need 6 volunteers. And here's what I need for volunteers. I need 3 people, and at least one has to be white, who have a really strong... How are the attendance sheets going? They're good, right? They're moving along? Everybody? Got it? All right, man. 3 people who have a strong perspective about... Wait, first off, really fast, we're going to do one thing. Anybody have a question about anything I said? Anyone want to toss a question out? Are we good? All right, man. I need 3 people who have a strong perspective about white privilege. Have a perspective. You got a critique on it. If someone asks you about it, you could be like, "Oh yeah, no, I can talk about white privilege. I got this." Who aren't Not that white privilege does a critique that you have something to say about how it exists. That's the critique. Bro, okay, I got my white person. Now I need a black and a brown person. Dude, are you on, man? Are you ready? The two of you? Are you friends? Oh, man. Okay. Will you be better if you're together? Well, hang on. No, the two of you duke it out as to who should come up. Do the Duke thing, however you want to do it. Give me somebody else. So we have a black woman, and are you African American or African? African American? Okay. And I need somebody else. Preferably a brown person. Who else wants to do it? Come on, who's just been waiting to say what it is about racism, white privilege, about the whole thing, man? Hey, by the way, are you ready? Woman at the top. Are you ready? Are you American or? All right, man, come on. So we're going to do her. Which one of you? You? We'll bring you up another time. All right. Okay. Bro. So here's what's up. You all can actually just go out there. You can just go out there. I'll get you a name in a bit. Oh, I won't. Oh, wait till you find out what you're going to do. Okay, so here's the deal. First off, let me just say something really fast. You know, like white people, one of the critiques that white people have about race issues is that black people in particular are always talking about race. Yeah, they're always talking about race. Like, I always want to talk about race. Oh, race this and race, always a race issue, and they're always just da-da-da-da, right? Dude, you recognize that I just gave anybody in the class the opportunity to come up here and just kind of tell us how it is. Tell white people how it is about their privilege. And the entire black part of the section of the class did not raise their hands. You see that, right? People aren't just always wanting to talk about race and always talking about race and race is all the issues. No, people are, it's not what's going on. So just hold that for a hot second, right? Okay, now here's what I need. I need 3 more people. I need a white person who grew up in the middle or upper middle class white world, who has really almost no, it can't be you, bro, because you might have to leave. And who has like, who has very little experience with race, not the multicultural world. So, we're not talking like, in Queens, New York or something. Is that this guy right here in the red? Wait, which one? This dude? Is that you, bro? Upper middle class? You're just a white dude? Oh, dude, you are. Come on. All right. And you're in a fraternity? Oh, you're the best. Shit. Now I need a poor white person. Like we had one woman. Wait. Dude, you can go to the front, man. Have a seat in the chairs. The one on the right. I need a poor white person. Who's the poorest white person in class? We had the one woman raise her hand the other day, but ideally it's not her, it's somebody else. I need a poor white person. Who thinks they're the poorest white person in class? Where are we at? Wait, where's the woman from the other day? I might have to choose you by default. Wait, is that you? Hold tight though. Can somebody else come in? Anybody? Poor white person. Penn State's really expensive, bro. You know what I mean? They don't let poor people in here anymore. Wait, is that you? All right. Why don't you come down? You're going to sit. Bro, actually, you're going to be in the middle, my friend. Yo, bro. Frat guy. Dude, you're going to be in the middle. And then I need a wealthy black or brown person. Hang on, I may hold off on you. I might use it. Wealthy? You have money? Money? Huh? Well. Okay, you guys got a mic, right? Yep, no, sit right there. No, keep the mic. Yeah, we'll share a mic. All right, y'all, come on, man. Let's go. Y'all can sit up here. Bro, you sit in the center. Just because, I don't know why. All right, so let's do names. You had a name tag on. That would put it back on. That would be so helpful for me.
I took it off.
Oh, come on. I can never remember 5 names I might be able to do it with. All right. Okay, what's your name?
My name is Alair.
Alair?
Yes.
Alair?
Yes.
Awesome.
Correct.
Man. Okay, Alair.
I'm Dalton.
Dalton?
Yeah.
It's a nice white name. Any black people named Dalton? All right, dude. You look like a Dalton, by the way. Yep.
Monet.
What is it?
Monet.
Beauvais?
Monet, like the painter, like Claude Monet.
Oh, Monet. Got it. Sorry, Mom. I'm sorry. Don't ever feel weird when I don't understand your names, okay? Got it? Wait, okay, so Monet,
Yes.
Dalton, Alair. Got it. Let's start down here. Wait, hang on. Turn it on. Just push it up. Yep.
I'm Alex.
Alice? Alex? Got it.
I'm Sean.
Sean.
I'm Olivia.
Olivia. Okay, so here we go. So, bro, give us something about you. So you're like, you two are, you're just here. You can actually move your seats just away a little bit. You're on, bro. Tell us about yourself. White guy.
I'm a sophomore here. I'm from Bucks County, Pennsylvania.
What are you studying?
Finance.
Finance. Oh, you want to be in finance, yeah?
Yeah, that's
That's the
goal.
ticket to what? So what's your background? What do your parents do?
My mom is an office manager, and my dad is retired.
Yeah? And so you're here studying finance.
Yes.
You're in a frat?
Yes.
What, the EX frat?
That's what some call it. Yeah.
What is it?
Sigma Chi.
Sigma Chi? Oh, you guys aren't on probation or anything? I thought it seems like half the frats are on probation.
Not right now. No.
All right. Probably give it another week. You probably will be. All right, so here's what I want. Monet, Dalton, Alair. I want you to explain this guy his white privilege.
He was an engineer.
Oh, yeah. Hang on. Did you get that? Oh, all right. Do you want to start?
Oh, yeah, I was just going to ask. So,
Hold it, Mike, really
did
tight.
both of your parents go to college?
No, neither of them did.
Neither of them went to college, and he became an engineer?
Yes.
How do you say how?
One of his best friends started a company, and he's good with math.
So was there like a connection, like a friend?
Yeah, they used to like race together. Cars.
Go ahead.
Any other questions?
So your job is to explain his white privilege. He doesn't know why he doesn't get. He doesn't get his dude. Look at this guy. He's like a frat. What do you call? Who are they? He's like just a frat dude.
I suck.
Come on, man.
All right, Sean.
What all he thinks about is beer and beer. You know what I mean? I would say women, but whatever. But just beer. He hasn't even got to women yet. It's just beer. Bro. So you're going to explain white privilege to this guy?
Yeah, all right.
This guy, have you ever, do you look in the mirror and think about your white privilege, bro?
Not usually, no.
Okay. I mean, in other words, never. All right.
All right, so the way I look at it is it's probably a combination like two things, right? So the first thing is, if you were to just like say, let's say like before you were born, right? It was like you're going to be either born white or black, and then you were randomly selected into like one white or black family. Most people, if their goal was to be born into the best opportunity, you would choose white because there's more white people in better opportunities than there are black people in good opportunities, and not only in this country but like in the whole world. So like all black people and all white people, right? And then another thing is depending on which country you're in, like America. Like I don't know, like I'm white, right? And I have some black friends that say being black never held them back about nothing. And then I have some black friends that say like their whole life is different because they have all these opportunities that they couldn't get to because they're black. So I don't know about that, but that's another perspective, which is that, just like same thing kind of like with being like a man, right? Is like you don't know what you're given, right? Because like it could be anything. Like you go to like this is like a little example, but like go to a grocery store, right?
All right, hang on though. Before you give that example, go to Alaire first. We can come back to that.
Okay. To express or to tell you about your privilege, I think we should talk about your parents. The fact that both of them seem like they're financially stable, and your father became an engineer off the fact of having a friend that he raced cars with. That's amazing. That shows that if an African American was in that same situation, the likelihood of that would not be even existent. Also, you're in a frat, so that means you have time to, drink beer and hang out with your friends and do stuff like that. On the other hand, a lot of students that have to pay for school, go through school, X, Y, and Z don't have that luxury. So right there, you have the luxury of being in a frat, having parents that are able to provide for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
So like maybe this is a little out of pocket, but like so it seems to me, right? Like you guys, like I recognize white privilege, right? But like you guys come up here and you immediately just have almost, it's not very aggressive, but a little bit of an aggressive tone with him.
Why do you think that I was aggressive? I was very diplomatic.
It was a little, maybe I didn't hear you correctly or something, but like you guys, you're telling him, you're immediately telling him all these things, like you're just being a little rude. It came off as a little rude to me.
Oh, wait, can I say something?
Wait, hang on.
Hold the mic. Hold the mic.
First
Hold
off,
on.
remember.
I just want to put a disclaimer out there.
You're on their team, but go ahead.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm just
don't-
sitting with us. So I just want
White
to first
people.
want to say, the purpose of the whole exercise was to explain his white privilege. We
Oh, yeah,
asked questions.
be as aggressive as you want, my friend.
But I mean, how am I coming off aggressive? I think that's a stereotype that black women get when, that's the stereotype when black women or whatever the case may be, people of color are put in situations on the platform to talk about white privilege and on and on and on. We get this white fragility. They get nervous, they get uncomfortable. So what they want to say is you're aggressive. I'm not being aggressive. I was very diplomatic.
Oh, wait, hang on. Yeah, you were. I thought you were. But listen. No. Not aggressive. Diplomatic. There you go.
Thank you.
But hang on. So, we're going to come back to this in a hot second, bro. Yeah, you're good. I want to dive into that. Yo, hang on. That, here, bro, you're still in the hot seat, and we haven't even gone here. But look, by the way, so I just want to fill you in really fast on something. There's so many awesome issues to touch in a class like this. So, right now I could go in 3 different directions, and you can imagine being me. And knowing that you could go in 3 different, I could go in the 30 different directions. We could stay right here, and we're going to do it, and we'll come, but I also know we'll come back to things, and some things we'll go to, but we're going to air this out in a little bit. But first, I want to go right, what else do you want to say to him?
Yeah, so I just basically wanted to talk about white privilege. I feel like it's not necessarily just your parents, you yourself, you're not the privilege. The privilege is in society, and that's just because America was built on white privilege. So it's you see, it's enrooted. It's subconscious. So when an employer, let's say your mom walks into a job, you said she's office management, something like that. Yeah, so let's say when she walks in there, she'd have the same tone, and then someone of another look or aspects have the same tone, and the employer subconsciously is just gonna gravitate more towards her. Maybe because the other person comes off aggressive, but they're doing the same exact thing. And like he just said, if someone of like another race were to say something like what she just said, yeah, or something like what I just said in the same exact tone, it would be subconsciously interpreted another way. So that's why like the privilege comes into the way society like automatically views a certain group. Like one group is automatically subconsciously viewed as aggressive, while the other seems like, oh, you know, this is more suited for the workplace, different things like that. So it's not just like you and your family itself, it's America. And I feel like in order for us to fix like that part of America, which, you know, was made in like the 1800s and slavery and Jim Crow and all that, I feel like we have to acknowledge like that it's a thing, and that's like we have to circumvent it in that way.
Okay. All right. Cool. Thanks, Mom. Dude, tell us about your white privilege here. They're laying it out to you. What do you have to say?
What I'm getting.
I can't wait till your frat brothers are watching this.
They still are right now. I don't. They're kind of making it seem that I was born into it, and that us as whites have a better opportunity because of the subconscious mind.
No, just you. Just like that
me?
you have a better opportunity.
Yeah, just me. Sure.
Yeah. What do you think about that?
I don't know. I don't think so.
You don't think so?
No.
Or you don't see it?
Maybe I don't. Yeah, sure. I don't see it. Let's go with that.
All right. So, okay, that's cool. Got it. So this is, mind you, this is what we're dealing with, right? It's like we got to find a way to say it. We're going to come back to you for a second, bro. But in the meantime, we're going to come back to you real fast. Given what you said, it's built into society. So, you did nice, dude. You know, I don't. So, what's your story? You're white, right?
Yeah. So my parents are divorced, and when they got divorced, my mom wasn't working. So it's kind of just been like slowly working up to where we are now. But even then, I would consider us pretty poor. Like we've never owned a house. We've been running pretty much my entire life. My dad was remarried, and his family like makes more money than us. But with me and my sister primarily living with my mom, I would consider us pretty poor. But
okay, so how do you incorporate her into it, bro? You can join in on this. How do you incorporate that? Because you said it's built into society.
Yeah, it
she
is
must be
built in
living in a different society.
But there's anomalies, like, at the same time. Like, I feel like white privilege and saying, oh, every single white person is, like, privileged. But at the same time, like, factually speaking, you know, your family, not you specifically, but people in general, their families are more likely to have generational wealth just because of simply the way, like, America is built. Like, you're built to more likely have privilege in society than
Okay.
others.
Bro, do you want to respond to her? Like, how would you incorporate her?
Well, I was also grew up kind of poor, so, and I didn't have a dad. Like that's something that like most, I guess, is more attributed to like black culture. I would say like a negative stereotype. You know what I mean?
So
like,
wait. So
like,
how do you incorporate? So how do you? No, hang on, bro. How do you incorporate? Dude, hang on. I'm going to go to him, and then I'm going to you. All right. Dude, wait. You grew up in black culture?
No, that's not what
All
I
right.
said.
Okay. All right.
That's not what I
Dude,
said.
Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Lehighton first, and then I moved
Wait,
to
yo. Am I on drugs? Dude, hang on. Where'd you grow up, bro?
Well, I grew up in Lehighton. It's like a small town, kind of like pretty far east from here.
Okay.
It's like pretty depressed town.
So hot.
And
Okay.
then-
What? Depressed?
Yeah, there's like a lot of like
Do you-
it's actually mostly white, but I mean, there's a lot of people doing drugs. This is like not a good place to grow up, and it was really bad environment. So like that wasn't white privilege. You know what I mean? So like, but I don't really think that has anything to do with white privilege because like there's black people that are very rich and very famous, and there's white people that are very poor. It doesn't necessarily mean that white privilege doesn't exist.
So this doesn't negate white privilege. Well, how would you? How
No,
do
it's just
okay.
an outlier.
Yep, I got you. How do you incorporate her story into it?
So I think that white privilege talks about how you can access agency, like what can you do? So like say hypothetically, you're saying that you grew up poor, however, you do attend a PWI, and I feel like that that in itself gives you a privilege versus somebody who, let's say that was person of color in your situation, mom wasn't working, X, Y, and Z. Would they still have the opportunity to attend Penn State? So I'm not necessarily saying, I'm not invalidating anybody's experiences because I feel like it's all valid. But what I'm saying is that white privilege sometimes gives you the freedom to access better opportunities, in a sense, solely off because you are white.
Okay, so you caught that, right? You said that really well. Like, you know what I mean?
Thank you.
No. You laid that. That's the point that you're going to lay out. It's like it gives you a certain amount of privileges just being white. However, here's the however. Man, you are walking on a razor's edge to say that like her being white somehow this in this some kind of microwave or whatever like gives. It's a razor's edge.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not saying that. But let's say, like, even as far as like funding, and I'm not saying you in particular, but I'm saying if it comes down, if you present your story and somebody else presents their story, who would get scholarships? Who would get funding? And I'm not saying I don't know your financial background. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is that if you take a black person and a white person on equal playing fields, you go up in a poor neighborhood, drug infested, so on and so on, who has the better chances of making it out? And that's where white privilege plays a role. So I'm not saying like, oh, well, white privilege, you're going to get to do all this and all that. I'm not saying that. But if me and you are on an equal playing field, come from the same background, socioeconomics, then will we still have access to the same things? Probably not.
Okay, hang on. Will we still have access to the same things, right?
Right.
So what do you think about that? What do you think about your white privilege?
I definitely do think that even though I am on, I guess, the lower class level, I still think that white privilege exists. Like, I agree with your statement. And it's like, I don't want to say it's not something that we can help, but it's just how people look at things today.
Wait, can you give me an example, though? Because, hang on, you know what can I just say, hey, everyone, can I just say this really fast? That's a script. That's one of the scripts that your generation has learned. It's like, yeah, I know I have this isn't bad. Like, you're good. Like, you're a good white person, right? Yeah. You learn the script. I know I have a certain amount of privilege. Man, you could be living on the streets, eating rats for dinner, eating whatever, and you could still be like, oh no, but I got the script, but I still have privilege because I'm white. It's like, hang on a sec. To go back, give me one way in which you have white privilege. Your whiteness gives you privilege.
I mean, I don't know. I haven't had a situation, at least in my life yet, where that has come into play, where I've been against someone who's not white, and it was like I needed a different opportunity. But like, for example, like job opportunities, I'm sure that more in the future would probably be presented to someone who's white rather than someone who's of color. I don't know, like we were talking about financial aid and stuff, like scholarships and stuff, being able to go to Penn State. I don't know. I mean, I really haven't been put into a position yet in my life where that has happened.
But can I say to you all and to everybody else, as far as I know, Penn State has no scholarships dedicated for poor white people. I don't think there's a single one out there.
Yeah, right now, I can't receive more financial aid this semester, so I have like a $2,000 bill that I gotta figure out how to pay in like the next 2 weeks, which sucks. But yeah, I mean.
Okay, so hang on real fast. We're gonna come back. How long would it take you to pay her $2,000 bill? She's Puerto Rican.
I wouldn't have to worry about that. But so in my opinion, like white privilege is a real thing, and I really do think white people have an advantage over minorities. However, there also is a big divide between the rich and poor, and I think that's a whole separate issue.
Okay, go ahead.
And yeah, so I feel like you're less privileged than me because, well, like I don't have money, but my parents have money, and it's nice, so I don't have to worry about certain things that you have to.
Like how much money? I don't want specifics, but like a lot of money. Your parents are really rich.
I mean,
they're wealthy.
Like, yeah.
Like you could call them right now and say, I need $2,000 because I got to give it to my classmate.
Well, no, they make me work for things.
No, I got you. But you could, if you needed $2,000, you could get it.
Yeah.
Okay. Dude, just trying to hook you up, my friend, all right? Look, so how do the three of you she's Puerto Rican. So Puerto Rican, so you have, like in the United States, you have Native Americans, right? Then you have Black Americans, then you have Puerto Rican Americans, and Mexican Americans, and so on. So, like, how do you incorporate her into the way society is organized, since she clearly has far more privilege and power than her?
But that's looking between the two, you wouldn't be able to tell. And it's all about the optics. And that's how America works.
It's all about the optics?
I agree.
Yeah?
Yeah, like we don't know their intersectionality yet until they open their mouths. But when we look at you and we make an assumptions, and I'm not saying myself, but how America generalizes, we don't know that you have to pay $2,000. We don't know that your family's wealthy. So, I mean, at the end of the day, how does that work in your favor? At the end of the day, looking at you, you're still white.
Yeah, but okay, so listen, man. So hang on. What I just heard you say was that in the end, right? So tell me if I'm wrong here, right? But what I think I just heard you say was, really in the end, she's as well off or better off than her? Well, hang on one second. All right, y'all, have a wonderful dinner, man. Say hello.
You guys look nice, by the
All
way.
right, see y'all. It wasn't anything you said. Right? Sorry, man. All right. Enjoy. All right, hang on. All right, so in the end, what I'm hearing you say, though, and I want you to respond to this, is that she's still better off. In what ways is she better off than her, man? Like, in what ways? Like, I don't see any way in which she's...
From the visual, like, before you get to know them, before they open their mouths, what do you assume?
Yeah, but come on, man. We're gonna... So now what I'm doing is, I'm sitting out here. All right? Bro. I'm sitting next to you. Okay? I'm sitting out here, and I'm just the average person who's thinking about this stuff, right? And I'm like, man, you have not made a convincing argument, because her... What's your name again?
Alexandria. But
Alexandria. Alex. I'm just like, come on, man. Your framework doesn't account for the fact that Alex's family is rich, and her family... I'm just going to say
But they're
rich.
two separate issues.
Yeah, we're talking about race and white privilege, and we're talking about the wealth inequality gap. Two different.
Yeah, but white privilege is also about wealth and inequality. They're all together. I don't know how you could separate them. I'm not talking about... Are we talking about, well, she won't get followed around in a store by a security guard, but you will? It's like, come on, man. So that's how you're defining white privilege? So I would say open it up, because we're throwing this idea around here. It's like, damn. Because and by the way, I'm just having the conversation. Like, you got a lot of people sitting right here in her seat that are going like, I'm not getting this. And you got a lot of people sitting in her seat, a person of color who's got a lot of money, and then we're looking at her and going like, dude, all the people in your town are going to look at her and be like, oh yeah, I'd rather be me, the white person, than her. How many people in your graduating class would say that?
Well, I graduated from my high school. It was probably like 40% white people. I moved to Easton, which is like a little different than my like hometown.
Yeah.
There are some racist people, but most people wouldn't.
No. But I'm just asking. Can you also respond? Yeah, I got you.
I was just gonna respond to the whole like white privilege thing. I feel like white privilege, it goes in like different aspects, like she said. So I feel like for the aspects regarding like financials and finances and like monetary things, I feel like just statistically speaking, white privilege is basically just saying, statistically speaking, if you're a person of like Caucasian background, your family is more likely to have generational wealth that's going to allow you, to be privileged like her and to get in college. But again, there's always anomalies. Like, sometimes your parents or your great-grandparents got lucky. Like my grandparents came from Jamaica, started a business, and then they like became like millionaires like in New York. So there's always anomalies, but at the same time, it's going to be it's difficult. So her herself, like if she steps in a place, you know, her employer knows nothing about her background, and these two women come into one job market, and, you know, the employer is someone of like basic, you know, American views, are like views that are commonly seen in America, like one person is more likely to get the job than the other. So it's like
Okay.
in finances, and it's like,
Okay, listen, man. So one thing you just said, your grandparents became millionaires in New York?
well,
Like a lot of money.
yeah.
Dude, so right there, the moment you say that, you understand, if I'm her, if I'm you, I'm just like, and now I'm in a class and we're going to start throwing words around like race inequality and white privilege and this and that, and I'm you. What do you think she's thinking?
I feel like, I mean, she'd probably think, I feel like it's still weird though, because it's still like an anomaly. That's just one person in my whole entire family that
I got
allowed
ya.
me to be where I am today.
I got
But
ya.
like on average, like there's going to be percentile wise, there's going to be more people, more white people like of Caucasian background who have like two grandparents
Yep,
of that
yep.
same background. And that's where the privilege comes in.
Okay, so listen, man. Let me just come back. This would take a long time to air out. Absolutely. Like, you got to look at the numbers. We're going to look at this class at not just individual examples, obviously numbers, but what I'm trying to point out is, like, first off, this guy right here, dude, the white guy, he's just, you know, like, we throw these words around and we throw stuff around and we take classes like 119 and we throw words and we expect everyone to get the white privilege stuff. And it's like, people aren't getting, it's not landing. It's not going to land. It just doesn't land until we wrestle. Like, right, bro? Look at him, man. He does. I don't know why you make me laugh, but you do. All right. So look, here's the other thing, dude. I want to go back to the. We're gonna go back to the aggressive thing. Yeah. We're gonna have a conversation about that. Not in a bad way. It's gonna be a cool way. We're gonna have a really cool thing. You know, I want to talk about that. The black women, the aggressive black woman who, like, you know, like you, and you're an ally, right? But nonetheless, right? Dog, yeah, man. No, you can't, because we got to go. I have to do something else. But we're going to come back to it. Let's just come back at the beginning of next class, and we'll do it.
All right, yeah, that's cool.
Are we good? Dude, in the meantime, you just party on, pal. All right. All right, thanks, man. Thanks, man.
That's what you do.